Rudy.
Hey, buddy.
You got news over there?
Yeah, let's do it, huh?
I don't have your bio.
No?
That is interesting.
That's all right. I'm not really a human, so that's okay. I don't really exist on this plane of existence.
Yeah, I know, but I like to give you plugs and all that kind of stuff. But all right, we'll get your bio.
Yeah.
News-wise.
News-wise. All right. So Snoop Dogg said he was caught off guard after grandson asked him how two women could possibly have a baby in the animated film Lightyear. He said, quote, "I'm scared to go to the movies, like y'all throwing me in the middle of this shit that I don't have an answer for. It threw me for a loop. I'm like, what part of the movie was this? These are kids. They're going to ask. I don't have answers. And I was just there to go to sleep and watch the movie. That shit woke me up."
He was there to sleep and watch
the movie, which is, I don't know how you watch a movie while simultaneously sleeping, but he is Snoop Dogg, so.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny that everyone gets their fucking panties in a bunch over this. Also, it's Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Like, if there's anybody on the planet that we don't need to be politically correct and or toe whatever societal retarded line we're getting into today, it's Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
First of all he does is smoke pot and talk about pimping and hoeing. Mm-hmm. So get used to it.
At some point, he was the person that parents had to explain to their children. Like, I remember I got grounded for a Snoop Dogg CD, and if my mom would have known that years later that lesbians would be in Pixar movies, she probably would have gave me the goddamn Snoop Dogg CD back and just been like, okay, just listen to your shitty music.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to explain your experiences. Like, I think you can go, I was at a movie, I was with my granddaughter, two chicks popped up with a kid. My kid turned to me and went, what are these two mommies doing with a baby? And I didn't really have a good explanation for my 6-year-old granddaughter. Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like saying I got into an elevator and it was stalled in between floors. And someone goes, why are you talking shit about elevators? You go, that's what happened to me. I'm not saying I don't like elevators, and I'm not saying I don't use elevators, and I'm telling you not to use an elevator. I'm saying this is this thing that happened.
Yeah.
So you can say what happened, and then you can go, I had to explain to her that sometimes mommies love each other and end up getting married, or there's some sort of nice version of that Snoop Dogg would never say. Yeah. And then there's what he did experience. But I do agree that, like, my whole thing, and I think all parents feel this way too, which is like, look, first off, whatever's out there, there's stuff out there. There is Al-Qaeda out there, and there's like honor killings, and there is genital mutilation, and there's bizarre German porn that
I know.
I'm an adult atheist, and it would freak me out, give me nightmares. There's all of it is out there, and then there's the trans community, and that's like, that is fine, and I don't care about the trans community. But then you go, the trans community wants to come into your first grade class and start talking to them about something. And then I go, that I don't want.
Yeah.
And then they go, why not? You have a beef with that community? And I go, no, I don't have a beef with a lot of stuff. I don't have a beef with the German porn, but I don't want it showed in the first grade. So there's stuff that I just want separated from that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think somebody decided, especially Disney and Pixar and Hollywood, that it would be a good idea to get everyone exposed to everything early, as if that was some solution.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a solution. Like, I think kids, especially in this modern society, find their way into everything eventually, and we don't need, like, do not worry. Your young son and young daughter will discover there's something called the trans community at some point, and they'll also discover Al-Qaeda at some point, and they'll also discover genital mutilation, and they'll also hear the song Man-Eater by Hall & Oates. It's all going to happen.
All the shitty things in life are going to come on.
We don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
We wish we could shield our children from Man-Eater.
Man-Eater, yeah.
But it cannot, or Abracadabra. by Steve Miller. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
but I don't want to play Abracadabra while they're in the crib.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel the same way about Don't Stop Believing. Like, I don't need that in the classroom while the trans lady is trying to read Berenstain Bears.
They are never going to be able to escape Don't Stop Believing.
It's fucking possible.
It is impossible. It is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It's relentless.
Yeah.
It doesn't sleep. It's whatever the speech the guy gave about the Terminator in the first Terminator.
Yeah.
That's
it doesn't
what
stop.
Don't Stop
It doesn't
Believing.
feel.
It doesn't have remorse. You can't reason with it. It's an ear-killing machine.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's awful. And then on top of it, it was like it lulled for a few years. It came out and then it lulled, and then the goddamn Sopranos had to put it in to that final episode. And when it cuts to black and you hear the "Don't Stop," boom, and it was like it shot it into the stratosphere. And now every stupid fucking baseball game I go to, every time I go to a Lynx WNBA game, now I got to sit and listen to that goddamn song.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to say this. Don't Stop Believing is not as bad a song as Abracadabra, but it gets played 72 times as much, or maybe 1,000 times as much. And so there's two categories for songs. There's horrible songs that get played enough that we should never have heard in the first place. And then there's songs that I was fine with until I was beaten over the head with it.
Yeah.
And that's where I have Don't Stop Believing.
Well, it's weird that there's stuff that's so middle of the road and bad, and yet it gets so many spins. Like if you just happen to turn on TNT and they're playing The Son of Mask, I don't need that movie. I
agree.
like Jamie Kennedy. He's a fun guy, but that movie's a piece of shit, and I don't need it to be on network television when I'm in my hotel room on a Saturday afternoon.
I tend to think those... And I agree with you on that. Like, I don't know why we need to see Son of Mask ever again.
No.
But I think there's a financial explanation, which is those movies cost less to clear or whatever it is.
Oh, sure.
And if you want a Tarantino film, that might come with a different price tag. So I think there's some economic part of that. The Don't Stop Believing part is just people being dumb.
Yeah.
And when you're dumb, you like repetition. And you're basically more animal than man, and that's where Don't Stop Believing comes in. But anyway, the whole point is we do not need to pipe in Don't Stop Believing into our kids' nursery because at some point they will be hit with Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the trans stuff.
Yeah. Plus, also, I like that old Louis C.K. bit where he goes, I don't know, it's your shitty kid. You figure out how to talk to him. Why do I have to be the guy who's bringing it? Did you see this video? This is great. This is peak North Carolina. A North Carolina woman is being celebrated after a video clip of her physically detaining a suspected pickpocket in Venice went viral on social media. Sort of White Lotus, where there's women that are sort of like that, like very good looking. They're in Italy. They use their looks to get by, and then they end up scamming guys like that. But one of the things the woman yelled, which I love, is as that woman was screaming, the suspected pickpocket, she said, "You're not getting away. I'm not stopping, kid. I have 8 kids. You don't get to me."
Wow. I'm always secretly jealous of those people because I would let her go. I just want to hassle it.
Yeah. I would say just give me my shit back and then you can leave. I don't need to deal with this. I don't need you to get around. I don't care. I just want my stuff.
You know, the one time I thwarted a pickpocket purse snatcher in Santa Monica as I was chasing the guy down the sidewalk on some woman's behalf, she just screamed help in the middle of the street. I don't know. It's like 9 at night. I just ran down. So the guy stole me and I just went chasing after him. The whole time I was chasing after him, I was thinking about the part where I was going to like have to hold him in a headlock or something.
Yeah.
And he was going to be screaming, come on, man, you know, or whatever. And I kept going over it in my head. Like I was like, from the time I get my hands on this guy to the time the cops show up, it's going to be like at least 10 minutes. And for that 10 minutes, I'm going to be hanging on to this guy. And he's going to be screaming about like having kids and just trying to get enough money to get some food together, man. And, you know, this is my third strike and I'll be locked up. And I'll just be hanging on to him going, this is so uncomfortable.
Sure.
Emotionally,
Yeah.
you know, it was weird. I didn't even think about the physical part of it.
Yeah, he's going to be like, I don't even like Don't Stop Believing. Fucking A.
I felt so bad. And I was like, but I was starting to catch up to him, you know? And I was like, this is going to be, it's going to be so uncomfortable.
Pretend to trip. Oh, no.
No, I was really like, this is going to be so uncomfortable. I wasn't thinking about the physical part. I was just thinking about the emotional part of it.
Yeah.
And also, I was just bad. Like, I couldn't write people tickets and stuff like that. I couldn't be a cop because I couldn't pull over poor people. Like, I just feel horrible. But anyway, thankfully, right when I got up to him, he just jettisoned this woman's purse and briefcase. He just, like, chucked it.
Sure.
And as soon as he chucked it, I was like, all right, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang on to your ponytail.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I'm glad I avoided that. But as soon as that bitch started screaming, I would have just, I would have let her. I would have got my purse back and let her go.
And just let her go, yeah. See, that's the thing about big cities, where, like, I grew up small town, northern Minnesota, a little place called Hibbing, and we were kind of up on a rooftop having a party, and kids below us took a brick and threw it through the back windshield of a vehicle that was outside of a bar. And we're like, let's get him. So we take off running. We go down the street. Now we're chasing after these kids. And then we caught up to them. We're like, oh, shit, we know you guys. Never mind. You're good.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. You guys, they're like, yeah, we got a purse. You know, like $30. We're like, good for you. Anyways, we're having a party if you guys want to come back and hang.
Yeah. I'm sort of jealous of the women or the men or the whoever who can get, first off, if somebody steals shit from me, I don't take it personally. I just feel like they're thieves and they want money. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So they're people, like when you do stuff to them, they take it personally.
Yeah.
Would they like internalize, or maybe they're narcissists. I don't know, but they get really animated about it. But I never would, because they're not stealing stuff from me. They're stealing stuff from a victim who happens to be me. But it's the same way, like driving on the freeway and getting cut off. Like that person's not cutting you off. That person's cutting a car off that you're in.
Yeah. Agrees to pay $79 million in a settlement to South Los Angeles residents after its pilots dumped jet fuel on neighborhoods more than 5 years ago. In January 2020, pilots of a Boeing 777 turned their Shanghai-bound flight back towards LAX after experiencing engine trouble shortly after it took off. However, pilots were forced to dump their fuel reserves since the jet exceeded its max landing weight of about 160,000 pounds. The liquid rained over thousands of cars, homes, businesses, and schools. They have agreed to not only pay the $79 million in the settlement, but also have everybody's properties tested, and then upon that, be given a certificate confirming that their property is clear.
So they figured they're fueled up because they're going to Shanghai from LAX, right? So they got thousands of pounds of fuel, and then they're going to burn off thousands of pounds on the way to Shanghai. But when they turn around and land, they're too heavy. So they got to dump that fuel. Now, I don't know where they were, but LAX just takes off right over the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like you would think, let's just dump it over the ocean versus over people's homes.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you know, if it's an emergency and you got to turn and you just don't have time to go out over the ocean, then you got to dump where you got to dump. My feeling is you want to live in the flight path. You get a little break on your home.
Absolutely, yes.
But shit happens every once in a while.
Yeah. Also, this does feel like, because, you know, you start hearing like some of the clients and the victims and the lawyers that are involved with this. And even though I'm not a big fan of big corporations, and I do like Delta, probably my favorite airline to fly, it does feel like this is an opportunity for people to make some dough. And this is exactly what they're going to do. If it was something like jet fuel on my property, I might just say, listen, just come and clean it up. Make sure it's fine. I just don't want any residual things happening to my pets or to my kids. But other than that, just clean it up and let's just bygones are bygones.
Yeah, you got a pressure washer.
Yeah,
hit the roof.
Yeah,
we're cool.
Throw in the earbuds.
Yeah, the thing about this is everyone's going to do the, my child has asthma and it flared up and blah, 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 deep pockets and all that, all that stuff. But I don't know. Like, I feel with air travel, I feel like we don't appreciate it enough, and we don't understand it enough, and we don't really understand how glorious it is.
It's amazing.
And what a gift it is.
Absolutely.
And how I was trying to work out this bit, but I'm trying to work this bit out where when you get your real ID, that's all that we have to have your information on it. And I don't know what else, retinal scans or whatever they're doing. But I'm like, they need to put a little picture of the Donner Party on that. And like when you're at the airport and you're fucking throwing a pissy fit because your flight to Phoenix is delayed 40 minutes, you need to look down at the Donner Party and go, these people walked here and died in a snow-covered pass and had to get into cannibalism. They had to eat. They ate the animals first. Yeah. Then they ate the guides second because they were Indian, and then they ate themselves. Right. And you're bitching because you can't get to Phoenix by 1:30. Yeah. And I just feel like people are like way too. Here's the thing about flight. Here's what I'm going to say about flight. You do not have a God-given right to fly. Nobody deserves to fly. This is a privilege, people. You don't need. Nobody in human history was able to get from LA to New York in 5.5 hours. Nobody until the last 10 minutes of our society. People died, spent many, many months, got lost at sea. God knows, the Kraken got them, Indians got them. I mean, this is the first time in world history that we've been able to do this. And you need to appreciate it a little more. Yeah. And you also kind of need to go, wow, we're really pulling something off. Yeah. We got 200 people that are flying to Shanghai or wherever they're going. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah. And once in a while, there's going to be delay. And once in a while, there's going to be a mechanical thing. And there's going to be a shit happens kind of thing. Yeah. But that should all come with the territory, and you should appreciate what you have. Yeah.
I had that conversation with my daughter on a flight. We were talking about, parties back in the day that had to take, wagons west, and as they were trying to figure out the lay of the land. And she was like, and I was like, that they had to kill their own food. And she wasn't impressed by any of it. And I said, by the way, they had no Wi-Fi. And she was like, get out, what? They walked all that way, no Wi-Fi? I was like, yeah, that didn't exist back then. They just had their thoughts and not even a path. They were the ones making the path that went all the way to the goddamn ocean. I know. So I just feel like people need to. Yeah. Again, they feel like they deserve flight. Sure. Like you see the films of the chicks at the airport. And it's like, sorry, we closed the door a half hour before. And they're like, fuck, bitch. And they pick up the computer and throw it at them and stuff. It's like, this isn't some sort of birthright. Yeah. This is a privilege. And you need to show up on time. And if you live in the path, once in a while, you get some Jet A dumped on you. All right, let's do one more. Yeah. All right. So, everybody's favorite quarterback, Jay Cutler, will have to spend time behind bars as part of a plea deal with prosecutors over his 2024 arrest. The ex-NFL star pleaded guilty to 1-count misdemeanor DUI. Per the deal, prosecutors agreed to drop 3 other charges filed against Cutler. Back in 2024, Cutler was arrested in Franklin, Tennessee on charges of driving while intoxicated and gun possession while under the influence. The other charges included violation of implied consent law and failure to exercise due care, which was reported as a charge brought over refusal to submit a blood or alcohol test. Now, this is the part that always confuses me, because every time I see like a TikTok or a reel and somebody goes, you don't have to give a breathalyzer. When they ask, you don't have to give one. And then you hear about guys get charged for not giving one, or they get taken in and then they do the blood, or they end up giving it anyways. And then I'm like, okay, so which is it? Which am I allowed to tell the cop you don't have the right to come into my vehicle? Or I don't know. It feels like there's so much contradicting information. These guys are the same guys that are like, you don't have to pay federal income tax. These assholes. Constitutionally, there's nothing in the Wesley Snipes.
saw your infomercial and did 7 years in federal prison because he didn't think he had to pay. Like, there is nothing in the Constitution that says, which is sort of like those Disney movies when Gus, the mule, would kick field goals.
Oh, sure.
And then the opposing coach would run out and start yelling, and then the ref would go, there's nothing in the rule book that says a donkey can't. True. Still implied that it's not legal.
Yeah, we need a human.
Right. So they will. Now, what I've learned from attorney Mark Garagos, who's in the back and going to come in here and talk Menendez in a moment, the tips are, if you just left the bar, like you just took a couple of shots and left the bar and get pulled over, take the breathalyzer because it hasn't fully entered your blood system. If you were watching the game, had some drinks, cut yourself off in the fourth quarter, left after the game and were driving home and got pulled over, take the blood because they got to bring you in and your blood alcohol levels going down as the time wears on.
You guys mind stopping by Subway real quick so I can get a footlong sub? I'm just a little hungry, that's all.
Yeah, but also, listen, Cutler I like, but if you got a gun in your car and you keep it in your glove box and then you get pulled over for DUI, I don't think that should be drunk, intoxicated, and gun possession. It was in the car. Like, you also have you have a tire iron in your car too, which could be used as a weapon. And you're drunk, but the tire iron was always in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're waving the gun around while drunk, but if they find the gun in the car when you're drunk, the gun was in the car that morning when you weren't drunk. No problem.
Yeah, it was on his way to practice.
That's
he stopped by and picked up a 9mm.
Right. So I'm just saying, I don't know about the gun part.
Yeah.
It is weird that there's actual time in jail, which normally you get like suspension of your license and
which you
whatever.
Also got,
I also, if I was running for president, I would run on a unification platform, which is, look, age of consent all over the road in this country, blood alcohol level, legally intoxicated all over the road, pardon the pun. Let's just call it 16 and 0.10. All right. Can we do that? We can move on. That way, when I go to Hawaii and I'm talking to lady friends, I wouldn't have to do the math, or I've had a couple of drinks when I want to talk to my lady friends on the drive home. There's a lot of calculations going on. You just make it 0.1 or 1, what is it? 0.1. Wait a minute.
0.01.
0.01. You make it 0.01 and you make it 16. And by the way, I feel like that crew is the same group.
Yeah.
It's the same group of fellas who could really benefit from some unification
here.
here.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no math involved. Plus, I don't know if you've seen Cutler on the field. He's not great at math. A lot of times he'd be out there and he'd be like, all right, guys, third down. And they're like, Jay, it's actually second. He's like, oh, shit.
And I could bargain with people. Like, I could go like, all right, we can dip down to 15 if you can give me 0.015 or something like that. We'll go up with the alcohol. We'll come down with the age. But either way.
Yeah, like a scales of justice.
In a way, a lot like that. So, and she wouldn't be blindfolded, but she'd have beer goggles on. Lady Justice would be wearing beer goggles, and I could negotiate that.
Juicy couture shorts.
Yeah, let's just start at 16 and 0.01. All right.
Yeah.
All right, Mark Garagos waiting out there. Lots of updates on the whole Menendez thing, which has been an interesting story. Rudy, I don't have your bio,
I think Chuck came and brought it in. But,
he did?
Maybe. I think so, maybe. But
somebody snuck in here, but I don't know where it went.
If not, don't worry about it. You can find me at Rudy_Povich on Instagram. You can go to my website, AdamCarollasopener.com, because nobody remembers my goddamn name. And then also, I got a couple of shows. October 3rd, I'll be in Jenkins, Minnesota, doing Snarky Loon Brewing. And then you can catch me on Black Friday, November 28th, at Heavy Rotation Brewing in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I do have a sorry. But I wanted to say it for yourself. All right. We'll do that. Sorry for the brain fart. Talk to Mark Garagos right after this. Mark Garagos back in studio. Always good to talk to Mark. Mark and I go way back, even further than we probably knew with the K-Rock days.
That's exactly right.
And
We're
Perkins
kind of
Palace.
our origin legends, or what do they call that? The origin myth. It's whatever. But you know, I'm going to give you a fun fact because I'm here to talk Menendez, and you tell the story because you're the reason I took the case. And people don't believe that, but it's God's honest truth. We've been doing, or were doing, Reasonable Doubt since 2015. One of the threads when we were doing Reasonable Doubt together was you talking about Menendez.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And I'll tell the story. I don't know why, but I've always had a very strong sort of vein in me of who's the problem and who's not the problem. That's always that's how I go through life. And
me,
when I hear people like screaming, Elon Musk, fuck Elon Musk. Like, this guy, all he does is create jobs and pay taxes. Please do not, he's not on your list. He should be nowhere near your list of people you have a beef with. There's people who pay no taxes and cause lots of problems who you kind of like. So do not leave it's a Viking ship. You're either rowing or you're not. Or you're sitting in the back dragging an anchor. Like, just anyone who's rowing, everyone in prison, I always felt like, do they pose a danger to me or not? And they push random people onto the subway tracks. That poses a danger to me or my family, my kids, or what have you. And
by the way, if you do an act like that, how can you ever say that person's not a danger? Because you can it reminds me of when I declare a doubt on somebody. This is something that happens all the time. When you declare a doubt and somebody's got a mental illness, they send them to like a Tascadero, right?
Right.
They medicate the guy. Guy gets great. He's fantastic. Then what happens? They say, okay, he's ready to go to trial now.
Right.
They bring him down to county jail, and within 5 days, without the medication, without whatever else, I'm ducking from plastic bags full of urine being thrown at me by the client, right? Because they have disintegrated. That's somebody that you really have a risk with.
Listen, and I feel the same way about, look, you embezzle from the company, the insurance company you work for. Okay, I'm not proud of you, but that's sort of you and them. That's not you taking my money. That's not robbing me. So, and it's this, and even in the murder department, you poison your long-suffering husband to collect on the insurance. It makes you a murderer, but it does not make my children endangered around you because they're not a benefactor of insurance or what have you. Okay,
exactly.
So I always do that. And so the Menendez, I was always like, look, whatever you want to say about them, they don't pose a danger to me, my children, or society at large. And there are plenty of people who pushed plenty of people onto subway tracks that got out of prison a lot faster than the Menendez did.
And then we'll go to your joke, which I've told a million times. But that's what was so frustrating last week about the parole hearing. I mean, the first guy who came out, mind you, Barton, who's the parole commissioner, is the same guy who found Sirhan was suitable for parole.
Right.
And for whatever you say, I think this guy is an ex-Kern County DA. So you can figure the
how old is he that he thought, well, Sirhan was in for a long time.
He's been in for a long time. But I always thought, this guy is so Machiavellian, he wants to screw with Gavin Newsom. He wants to force Gavin Newsom to have to reverse his decision to find this guy suitable, and which he did. And now he comes out of the box, and all he wants to talk about with Eric is, didn't you burglarize your neighbor's garage when you were 17 before your parents? And it's like, what? What are we talking about? This is Eric Menendez, who has had no hope whatsoever since 2005, started a hospice program, which I've seen with my own eyes down in R.J. Donovan prison.
Is that towards San Diego or in San Diego?
Yeah, it's right. It's by the border. It's in San Diego, where you see the young guys pushing around the old guys who are there because we locked up everybody. You see the guide dog units. You see Lyle in the green space. And this guy's talking about what did Eric do when he was 17, and that his cell phone use, because he's been busted once or twice for a cell phone, that shows criminal mindset.
Right.
And it's like, wait, we're going to house this kid, now a kid, he's 50-something, and we're going to say, no, you got to stay in for another year before you have another parole hearing because of a cell phone, even though you've been a model inmate for over a decade, and Lyle's been a model inmate for over a decade. That's the dangerousness. That's who we need to put in there. And now I'm going to let you tell you the joke. It's my favorite joke. I've used this. I can't tell you how many times.
I said, if Natalia walked into Sonny's room, if my one twin walked in my other twin's room and said, I'm thinking about killing mom and dad on Sunday, and my son looked up and said, this Sunday or next Sunday, that would mean we were horrible parents.
Exactly right. You would know something's going on. And by the way, who are you afraid? Who are they a future dangerousness to? Are they somebody going to adopt them? I mean, give me a break.
Well, okay, so adopt them. So that'd be a funny sitcom. But okay, here's what I wanted to say. I have two rules or two thoughts. One is, does the person pose a danger to society at large when they get out? That's one box. The other box is, have they been punished sufficiently? Because it's not enough just to say, well, this guy embezzled $10 million from investors, but he just didn't embezzle my money and he's not going to embezzle again. No, there has to be a punitive part of what he did. And so once the guy embezzles $10 million, once that guy gets 6 years in prison, then he gets out because it's like, well, he's done enough. There's been enough punishment meted out for what he did. And that's sort of understood. So for me, I got to look at both. So the Menendez 1 to 10 in terms of 10 being best, not putting their hands on other citizens or random acts of crime or any criminality, I give it a 10. I'm certain that there'll be no more crime coming from them. Then you have to get into have they paid their debt to society? And you go, I don't know, what's the average time a first offender spends in prison before getting paroled? What's the maximum someone has ever spent? What's the least? As we know, Dominic Dunn's daughter was choked out in cold blood, high noon, in a driveway by hand, literally throttled, killed by this guy. The guy did, 41 months or something, went to Seattle, became a chef. Yeah. I mean, like, literally took, like, his 18-year-old girlfriend, choked the life out of her, killed her. And
out.
All right. So what I'm saying is then I'd go, that guy, well, he got 42 months or whatever it is. And then I'll go, all right, well, there's some old black guy who was in there for 70 years. Okay, all right. So now what's the average? Like, I mean, a first-time offender would get for whatever.
I'll even drill down more. I believe that for a first degree in California, even in because you have to understand, when we were growing up in the 90s, all of a sudden it became 3 strikes and lock them up, and that's when we were building prisons and that whole don't touch the third rail of crime, kind of where we're going to right now again. Right. But 20-something years was the average. Mm-hmm. These guys are well over 70% over that.
Right. So with that in mind, according to my only 2 calculations, are you going to kill somebody else or do some more criminality, and have you been punished enough? A resounding yes to both, and they can go
And
home.
On your scale, 1 to 10, I can't imagine. Give me somebody who's less likely to recommit the target crime than these two.
No, it doesn't statistically. It doesn't exist. So
it does not, and you're very right. There are studies on this, and it does not happen.
Right. So now you have. Well, also, I mean, you have to kind of think about it. Like, if you are a murderer, like there is a guy, the guy who killed Ray Caruth's pregnant girlfriend. That guy was just a guy, and Ray Caruth, who was a wide receiver for the Panthers, said to this guy, I'll give you $5,000, and when me and my 9-month pregnant girlfriend, who's 26, when we're driving home from the movies, I'm just going to stop at this stoplight, and then you just get out and you just spray bullets at her so we can get on with our lives. And that guy was like, okay, which intersection are we at? And it was like, all right, for $5,000. Now, that guy could do anything at that point. He can pump a girl who is 9 months pregnant, full of gunshots, who's in her 20s, who he's never met, done nothing to him for literally a nominal amount, but $3,500, $5,000, you get it, right? So that guy is dangerous to me. The Menendez,
and by the way,
yes.
That guy, they will roll. They'll give a benefit to, prosecutors will, in order to get the guy who hired him. I mean, that's the frightening thing. I've never understood that. That is unbelievable to me. I've sat in courts so many times and said, wait a second, if we're talking about stone cold, it's one thing a step removed to pay somebody where you don't get your hands dirty, but how about the guy who does it is what you're saying.
Now, the end of that story is the mother died, but the baby was born severely impaired and then became 18. And then Ray Caruth got out of prison and said, I'm legally that guy's dad. And I served my debt. And I want to be reunited with him. I don't know how much crazier than you get than that story. Right. Okay. Now, these guys, and I don't think people, I don't know, I'm not joking. These guys killed their parents, and they killed them for reasons that are debatable, but the reason that can't be denied is both people decided mom and dad should be dead. Those kind of killers are not contract killers or gun for hire killers or crazy people pushing people onto the subway tracks. They're people that have a very specific killing instance. They're not killers. They're killers of family members for specific reasons. And I don't think those people pose the same
threat.
Well, listen. If you as a human being can pull a trigger with a gun pointed at somebody and are capable of taking someone's lives, then you're in a category that at least suggests you're capable of taking a life. We have to admit that. But
Correct.
if it's and like the aforementioned Sonny, I don't think he's capable of doing it regardless of what kind of abuse he was meted out at him or whatever. Like there's some people that couldn't ever make it into that category. They can make it into that category, but within that category, let's not confuse him with the gun for hire for Ray Caruth's girlfriend, because that guy can kill anyone on any given Saturday.
For all you can eat at the
Golden Corral.
Golden Corral.
Right.
And one of the things that was chilling to me is when we did the resentencing hearing back in May, I put family members on. We were in front of Judge Jessic, who I've known since he was a prosecutor, one of the great judges in town. And we put on 3 family members who had gone to the house and were so appalled by a number of things. Number one was the hallway rule. Kitty enforced what was called the hallway rule. If Jose was down the hall with one of his sons, you were not allowed to go down the hall.
Right.
Now that's just.
It's also it can't exist in a smoke form without a fire form.
Correct.
It's like it's so bizarre.
Exactly.
And it's so.
And they were complaining about it in real time. I don't want to go back to that house. There's weird things going on. That's number one. Number two, the older sister of Kitty, because every time everybody always defaults to why Kitty? Why Kitty? Why'd they reload with Kitty? I would say, well, number one, the only way you know that they reloaded is Lyle testified to it at the trial. It's not like there was a video there. He testified. He was honest about it. And Kitty's older sister, Joan, has testified not once, not twice, but 3 times under oath that she wants them out before she dies. She's 93 years old. And she understands, and she's, talk about this isn't me, this is her. She says, my sister should have done more to stop what was happening in that house. That's the older sister of Kitty. Mind you, the older sister of Jose loved Jose. It's my baby brother, but she wants them out. So everybody who's seizing the moral high ground saying, well, they killed their parents, they should never get out, or this, that, the entire family, every living member wants them out.
Were there 2 shotguns?
Yes.
I was just talking about this the other day with somebody, and I realized I'd never really thought about it. There are 2 triggermen, essentially.
Yeah, and they were there, and they testified to it. And I was just talking with your guys here beforehand. They were saying, well, what happened? And I said, well, clearly what happened. They were saying, did Eric Garcetti's dad, Gil Garcetti, he was the DA then. He was in a fight for his life. Couldn't win the big one, was the big knock on him in the 90s as the LA DA.
OJ stuff,
8 days after OJ. 8 days after OJ was acquitted, their second trial started. Mind you, their first trial, 2 juries, half of the jurors for Lyle, half of the jurors for Eric found them not guilty of murder and wanted manslaughter. Mm-hmm. Clearly down gender lines. All the women voted for manslaughter, all the men for murder.
Huh.
Isn't that wild?
Mm-hmm.
Second trial, 1 jury, all the rulings change, no cameras in the courtroom. 8 days after OJ, evidence starts, and it's a whole different ballgame.
So how much of this, I was talking to Mike August about it, and he thought some of this was a Newsom thing, like running for president, doesn't want it to get to his desk. I don't know. Like, how much of this is politics?
Well, I will tell you, I think Hochman, who's the current DA, I think he's playing politics. I made the prediction. I think he just won DA against Gascon. I think he plans on running for Attorney General in 2026 against Rob Bonta. And I think this is what he thinks this is a winning issue.
Right.
And
so he ran on Law and Order.
Correct.
And
I'm not going to be Gascon. Gascon wanted him out. Boom.
Right. So unfortunately, timing is playing into this quite a bit. In that you have a guy who goes, I'm all about Law and Order. And so if you're all about Law and Order and you have a high-profile case, then you can't let those guys out if that's your claim, and especially if you're running for another office.
And
soon.
by the way, also starting to get the knock, like Gil Garcetti, which is very astute of your crew here, lost A$AP Rocky, lost the resentencing of the Menendez brothers, starting to get the rap he can't win the big one. So he doesn't want to be Gil Garcetti. He's going to be tough and go up there and do whatever. But it's up to the governor now. I mean, it's in his lap. It's also up to the judge, Judge Ryan, who's here in L.A. County, who's one of the great judges in the L.A. Superior Court. It's up to him. He's issued the habeas. So we still have 2 pathways here.
So can Newsom pardon them? Is that what you're saying?
He can give him clemency, which he should do. And everybody keeps telling me Newsom's not going to do it. He's going to run for president. We don't have to relitigate the 2013 Crystal Brain interview, sitting not at this table, but
one like it.
One like it.
Yeah. So the thing that worries me about Newsom and the Menendez boys is I don't think there's anything Newsom will or won't do out of the whatever's good or cosmically right. I think everything's a calculation, and he's decided to run for president, and every move he's going to make is going to be to fulfill that dream of becoming president, and everything's a calculation. And the problem with it's sort of like network attorneys. Network attorneys only say no because there's nothing in it for them to ever say yes. So they just go no.
Right.
And you go, why? Why can't we do whatever? And the answer is, because if I say yes, I could get fired. But if I say no, I'll never get fired. And there's just nothing in it for me to ever say yes. And in a weird way, that's kind of Menendez and the DA and the governor of like what's in it for them versus some potential downside. And unfortunately, that's a calculus.
It should be due process. You should be able to say, look, And I've said this and argued it, once again, invoking Judge Jessic. One of the things he said when resentencing them is what really moved him were letters from correctional officers who live with these guys, who said, if they could come out right now, I'd let them live next door to me. I got no problem with it. And by the way, correctional officers want people to have an incentive, right? Because the last thing you want is, I'm never getting out of here. I got no hope. I'm going to go crazy and shank you.
Right. I at this point, I really don't think there's any part of this that falls under the heading of pragmatism or numbers or calculations. It's just all about the system and politics and the sad part of our society.
It really is.
It's not even really about what's right or what's wrong or have they paid their debt or how did their family feel or how do the guards feel. It's just literally a calculation made by politicians for the next election.
And it really is infuriating in a way, because why wouldn't you? You know what these guys are going to do? It's clear to me what they would do. If you let Eric and Lyle out tomorrow, if he gives them clemency tomorrow, Eric, what is Eric going to do? You know what? He's going to continue to work on the hospice program in the prisons. That's what he knows. He's been doing it for 10 years. He's going to expand it. Is that not a good thing? And Lyle he's come up with this green space program. Like I said, I've been to R.J. Donovan. It's an amazing thing, the mural and everything they're doing there. Don't we want to? I mean, 90 whatever % of prisoners are going to get out. I want them to thrive when they get out. I don't want them to recidivate.
Right. Well, that is, unthinkable that they would get busted robbing a liquor store, 2 days after that. And we're in some weird, but you're sort of that with the city and the state. Like, I remember when I was remodeling a house a million years ago, my first home up in the Hollywood Hills, and it was literally 85 steps from the street to my front door. Like, it was a long, winding stairway hill home. And I was remodeling it, and at some point, I blew out the wall in the bathroom downstairs or whatever, and the building inspector came by, and he said, well, you can't replace the old 30-inch door. You have to replace it with a 32-inch door. And I knew the code, and I said, yeah. Why? Why does it have to be 32 inches? And he goes, wheelchair access. And I said, do you think there's any possible way someone in a wheelchair can get the 86 stairs up to this doorway? It needs to be 32 inches. I said, for what? Wheelchair. I said, right. There's nobody who could visit this house or be in this home who was confined to a wheelchair. It's an
impossibility.
Right. You might as well live on top of Pikes Peak in a wheelchair. I said, it's not going to happen. Yeah, but that's the code. And so you deal with that.
Right.
And
just
this is
you outsource any kind of practicality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a version of this is we always have done it this way, or it's just a lazy way of thinking. You don't have to really engage when you say it that way.
Also, there's a part where, there's a part where you have, and I don't know what this is and what people have with it, but there's like an empathy part where, like, I'd go, so I got to blow out this whole wall now. And to get 2 more inches so that hypothetically someone with a wheelchair could get up there and they go, call me when you're done, and they leave. You know what I mean? And like, I'd be racked with guilt if I was that guy. I would never do it because I'd put myself in their position. Like, if I were whoever the DA or whoever the judge, or not the judge in this case, but Newsom, like, I'd be going, I'm having trouble sleeping at night knowing these two guys in their 50s are spending another night in a cot with a cement ceiling.
And they've got a 93-year-old woman who's Kitty's sister, and a 80-something woman who's Jose's sister, who just battled, both of them with health battles. What if they wake up? They don't wake up. I mean, God forbid it's going to happen. And these guys are still in custody because there's some other calculation that's going on?
But drive me nuts. But there's many people who can do that.
I've said it for years. That's one of the reasons. I remember when I was offered, coming out of law school, offered a job as a district attorney. And my dad had been a district attorney, as you know. And I just thought to myself, how can I prosecute people for stuff that I can see myself doing? And there used to be a judge who lived on a Commonwealth in La Cañada, Judge Stromwell. And Judge Stromwell was an ex-LAPD guy, I mean, a hard law and order guy. But he used to always say, when a DA would ask for prison time or jail time on somebody, he'd say, I would have done the same thing, or I could see myself committing the same act. I'm not sending this guy to jail for it.
Yeah.
That was kind of a, wow, that was revelatory.
Yeah. I know it's funny when you talk to a woman and someone will go, I caught my boyfriend peeing in the shower, and they all go, so gross. And I go, well, maybe he had a couple of beers and he couldn't make it to the toilet. No, it's gross. Yeah, but with the hot water, that really kind of gets things moving, Like, I know. Timeline of what's next.
I will be back here the minute I either hear from the governor, who could give clemency, or Judge Ryan, who I'm hoping issues an order for an evidentiary hearing on the habeas.
But what does that timeline look like?
It could be any hour, any day.
But not 7 months from now.
No, I think we'll clearly have something well before.
You'll have a thumbs up or thumbs down in the next.
Absolutely, in the very near future.
2 weeks.
Within 30 days, I would say.
30 days.
Yeah.
All right, P-Diddy.
Yes.
And or Ron Jeremy.
P-Diddy. Let's start with P-Diddy.
Okay.
Well, I heard you talking when I came in here about people complaining. And I haven't told you this story. Maybe I have, but not on air. I was thinking about, I watched Tenny, my daughter, who you've watched grow up. I watched her give the opening statement in P. Diddy's case. And I thought to myself, her great-grandmother, my grandmother, was in a orphanage, Turkish orphanage, after running around the desert in Syria, being chased by Ottoman Turks. Somehow escaped, somehow came to America and gave birth to my dad when she was either 14 or 16. She doesn't know how old she was. And now here, her great-granddaughter is trying cases at the highest level. And that's really, and by the way, whenever somebody complains about their life or what they're doing, imagine being in a Turkish orphanage, escaping and getting to America and being pregnant by 14 or 16,
Right.
I mean, talk about, it kind of puts in perspective when you complain about your life or some issue, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you go to McDonald's, you order the 20-piece McNugget, and they're out of the honey mustard dipping sauce, and all they have is the barbecue, and you fucking have a meltdown.
This is outrageous!
Why me? Why me?
Well, Diddy, there's going to be an interesting filing, I think, next week, maybe Monday. The judge had ordered, he wanted to see a survey of all the cases anywhere in the U.S. where anybody had been sentenced or convicted of a Mann Act violation. The Mann Act is what, Diddy was famously acquitted of all of the serious counts that called for the RICO and the sex trafficking, but convicted of the Mann Act. And he wants to see, I want to see all the sentences. I want to see what you convict on and what you get sentenced on the Mann Act. And every time I hear about the Mann Act, all I can think about as I'm sitting here right next to Burbank Airport is go on a Friday, go tomorrow afternoon. I don't know when this drops.
Vegas,
yeah.
Yeah.
How many of the people sitting at that Burbank Airport are either going to have sex, flying to have sex, so that's interstate transportation, with somebody who may be paying for their flight and their hotel?
Mm-hmm. Right. In Vegas or vice versa.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Back and forth.
Well, I mean, there always used to be the stripper flight, which is, Thursday night.
Nobody knows what that is. I'm in New York, and I keep talking to all of the lawyers on the legal team, and I said, there's a stripper flight. It's like they must have a super shuttle from the Valley that goes and drops them off at Burbank, and it's a stripper flight to Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
Describe it.
So the precedent thing, which is sort of, I think, you can coach me up, we'll get back to Diddy, but it's like sort of the Trump thing with the real estate evaluations and Mar-a-Lago, and the banks got repaid and there's no complaints. And I think people are saying, when have you ever charged anybody with this thing?
Exactly.
Because it's never used. And I think you should be suspicious as a taxpayer when somebody goes, we're going to use some statute that we never use against this one individual. It, of course, looks like lawfare, whether it's P-Diddy or Trump at that point, because you never use this statute.
I've been making this argument for virtually 6 months, and clearly because I've been talking about that he should be pardoned or commuted by Trump. He, and they've said, well, and I think Trump said it. President Trump said, well, he's made some bad statements about me. Yeah, but now guess what's happened? He's seen what you went through. He saw that bullshit case, and you and I talked about this endlessly, the lawfare against him. I mean, whether it was the Georgia case or the classified documents case. I've gotten into so many arguments with Paulette about this. She gets so mad at me. They said, he's the fucking president of the United States. What are you talking about, classified documents? I don't care if he's got them on his bathroom floor. Who is supposed to have classified documents if not the president? And who's keeping the classified documents from him? It's the dumbest prosecution of all time, except maybe for the no harm, no foul, the banks never complained, but we're going to prosecute him in New York case, which, okay, I get you don't like Trump if you're the prosecutor, but you don't go out of your way to make up some mythical case.
Well, also, you should be disqualified from running for DA if you announce when you're running for DA, you're running to take down a certain citizen, whether it's Trump or whomever. You can't run on elect me and I'll find something and I'll take this guy down.
Which, by the way, is one of the great Soviet mantras.
Yes.
Find me the man, give me the man, I'll give you the crime. Or the other thing, when people start talking about, oh, it's a banana Republican. By the way, I'm on both sides of this. When Republicans were doing it to Democrats, I used to scream about it. I'm screaming about it now. You can't scream banana republic when you just use and torture yourself into finding ways to prosecute somebody.
So all right, I get the lawfare with Trump. The lawfare with Trump is we don't want him to be president, so we're going to do whatever we can to prevent him from being president. What's in it for them in P-Diddy?
I'll tell you. So the person who brought that case was Damian Williams, who was the then U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. He then brought that case and the Eric Adams case, both cases. Everybody, at least the consensus was, he was auditioning to be attorney general for Kamala if she won. He rushed both cases right before the election, thought that was going to be his ticket, leaves office, and what does he put on his website? I prosecuted the mayors and billionaires, and that's kind of his promotion. So that tells you all you need to know.
Right, because everything is motivation, and you have to go back and go, well, again with Trump, it's super clear. It's a hostile environment, especially Manhattan, New York. It's what votes 70% blue. They don't want to be president. Fine, that's their motivation. But this motivation is a sort of climb the ladder, get some big name pelts up on your wall, and have some recognizable names and build your resume.
Look what happens. I watched it for almost 50 years. Somebody they graduate from a great law school. They get good grades. They work at a big firm so they can make a little money for 2 years. They then try to get into the U.S. Attorney's Office. They then want to get one high-profile win, parachute out to go to a big firm, get a partnership, and you're made for the next 20 years. That's a thing. It happens. It's been happening. I mean, give me a prosecutor and I'll cite it. Some exceptions, but that's what they do.
It just struck me. This is a weird thought, but you got to stay with me on it. Tenny is going to be like the movie Scarface, which is Scarface doesn't have any black people in it, but it's the #1 black film ever created. I think Tenny could be the number one black attorney without being black. You see what I'm saying?
Except, you know what she just did? They just hired, you may have this if you Google it, the Alexander brothers just hired her. And you know how I know that? Because every guy that reads The Real Deal, the Alexander brothers were like real estate reality stars or whatever.
Yeah, those guys. What happened?
They're in custody, sex trafficking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's working for them?
Yep, she just got hired. You think that's bad for the brand, that she should just kind of...
I see, it's a kind of a weird thing. It's like, it's like being the heel in pro wrestling. Like, you have to lean into it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I used to say, do you remember when those guys on 640 KFI?
Yeah, John and Ken. Right.
In the 90s and early 2000s, John and Ken, I was the evil WWE guy. And they used to think that was horrible for me. But it was the greatest publicity I could ever get. I mean, it was like, oh, if I get in trouble, who do I want to call?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, right, the Saints don't get into trouble.
Exactly. I'm not here to audition for the Catholic charities,
Right. So Tenny gets this highest profile case of the last, I don't know,
30
20 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy how high profile. Also, something I do in my stand-up bit, but I'm curious about it, and I'll circle back. All I was seeing is really shitty sketches out of the inside of that courtroom.
Oh, my God.
And I don't, for the life of me, 30 years ago, we had high-definition, 5-camera shoots, well-lit with OJ. Now we have another black prominent celebrity who's being busted, and we got a chick who used to work at Knott's Berry Farm with the piece of chalk trying to bang it out.
I will tell you,
what is going on?
I've got a Disneyland portrait of my brother and of me from whatever that was, 60 some odd years ago. They're great. And where is the Disneyland guy? Because
he's better than
yeah.
All right, but why can't they have cameras in that courthouse?
Because it's federal.
Federal, no cameras.
No cameras. And
OJ wasn't federal.
No, it was state, and they would do it, and they would allow it. But
what is the difference? What would they say? Like if I said to the feds, how come?
They would say it's beneath the dignity of the federal court. There's never a good answer, because they now have film in the Ninth Circuit, which is federal, which is the Circuit Court of Appeal. You can watch arguments, which are people standing at a podium. Doesn't hurt. You can listen to the U.S. Supreme Court. I do that all the time on C-SPAN for arguments, but you can't do it in the district court. It makes zero sense.
So federal district, no cameras,
no audio.
And I guess it's not much of an appetite. No one's going to run on that platform, but
who's going to say it except it's one way. I always feel like eventually it will happen.
Is it possible that the courtroom sketch union is powerful and controlling the coffers, if they're, not contributing money?
So the guy that I think is the best sketch artist, still alive in his 90s, I just saw him in May, Bill Robles. Bill Robles is, if you call up his sketches, I buy them. They're works of art.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like what court
he's done
famous?
He's done every famous case. In fact, I think he should do a book, or he should do, LA Mag, we may do something where
Bill
we do
Robles.
Bill Robles. Unbelievable.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, that she was making Diddy look a little evil. I don't know if you've got that.
Diddy didn't like looking old or something.
Yeah,
it's a huge case. Now, he's still incarcerated, right?
Still in custody.
How long has he been in custody, sir?
About almost a year to the day.
Almost a year to the day. Is it a situation where, and you tell me, all right, you tell me this. I'll give you an example. You tell me this. There's a house, and the house, they did a magnificent job of staging the house and photographing the house. And it was magnificent, but it was much nicer than the actual house. But it looked great. Like a date site where the woman takes a picture of herself 15 years earlier.
Yeah, and you say, wow, this looks great. Right. I saw one yesterday. A woman, I looked at her shot online, and I just done a Zoom, and it was virtually unrecognizable.
So now, even though it seems great that you staged a house and took great photos of it, when people come to the open house, they look around, they're a little disappointed. They don't buy the house. So you actually did too good a job. Is there a prosecution where you just get over your skis, you try to go for the brass ring, you may have gotten a lesser count on something, but you went for the big one, and it didn't work because people went, no, that's not what this is?
Look, I got excoriated by His Honor for calling the prosecutors a six-pack of white women. And he thought that was totally wildly inappropriate. But I will tell you that I'll tell you one other story. Right as the trial ended, was a Friday. And I'm walking from my office in New York down to where Tenny lives, maybe a 1.5 mile walk on a Sunday. It was Pride Day. And it took me about 3 hours because every street's blocked off.
Yes.
And as I'm walking there, and I'm thinking about these videotapes of Diddy and Cassie and the escorts in the room, which are kind of tame. And
tame in that you've seen them?
Yes. And
why do you get to see them?
You want to see them? You sound a little jelly.
Well,
you sound a little jelly.
Well,
so I'm going to tell you this.
They're a little tame?
They're tame.
Tamer than what the imagination.
I'm going to tell you, this is what my first reaction was. There is more wild stuff on the streets of New York on Pride Sunday than there is on those tapes. And I think at a certain point that if you have people who are they took such a shot. They tried to take away this guy's life, tried to take away all of his assets. You know, Rico was basically his net worth, rolling the dice. And then they thought, oh, we got these tapes. Oh, he's taping. Well, they found the tapes, or a lot of them, in Cassie's possession. She turned them over. And then they found, speaking of Jane Doe, some of them from her. And, well, why do they have them? I mean, you know what I mean? And so I could speculate, but the fact is they went for it, and now I think they're sore losers. I think the government are sore losers in this case. I think the idea that they're arguing to keep him in, and now they want 5 years or 6 years or whatever it is that they keep saying in court, you took your shot, you lost.
Well, ultimately, what would they say? I mean, what did he do? Like, I think a lot of it does mirror the Trump kind of warfare, sort of lawfare thing, and that you hear people going, he said 34 counts of whatever.
Exactly, felon, 34 counts, $500 million. Oh, whoops, the $500 million just got reversed. 34 counts. Oh, whoops. It was a nonsensical. It's not really a conviction.
Yeah, I think most people are confused. Like, they don't really know, other than being what they would consider a scumbag. Well, they don't know what he did legally.
And everybody says, I saw the tape, the Intercontinental tape. Well, by the way, that was in L.A. That wasn't in New York. And by the way, the statute of limitations had already run. And by the way, there wasn't a single domestic violence count that he was tried on. So prosecution by proxy? I mean, what are you doing here?
Right. So what are they doing?
So you may not like him, but guess what? Back then, when he committed that act, it would have been charged as a misdemeanor in L.A. That's the reality of it.
Right. And also, everyone hated me, but I was like, whatever he did to her was called a Tuesday for me growing up. Like, my friends would have thrown me. I got put into a coin-op laundry dryer and shut the door on me while I spun around and around, frying to death.
I just did a high school reunion, and we were talking about one of the guys there. We used to tie him up, or put tape around him and throw him into the locker. Remember that? Or you do the swirly. I don't know if you remember the swirly. Yeah, the toilet, head first into the swirly.
Well, so what is Diddy? What's the timeline on Diddy? And then
October 2nd will be the sentencing.
And then what are they charging him with?
He's been convicted of 2 counts of what's called the Mann Act, which was originally used against Jack Johnson, who was the boxer with a white underage. Also against Chuck Berry. You know who was acquitted of Mann Act? Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's literally, tell me if I'm right or wrong. I say, listen, I got a buddy. He lives in Nevada. He's, he's the kind of guy who can get a boner pretty easily, and I'm going to fly him out to L.A. for a party of mine, and we can sex down some of the ladies, and I'll hang out.
Yeah,
And that's
arguably man act, yeah. So you're having you're doing commercial transportation for the purpose of sex. That's man act. It's a frightening prospect when you think about it.
Well, it is in that anything that anyone, well, first off, anyone, as you'd said about the former prosecutor used to live on Commonwealth, if anyone could have done it at any particular time, then yeah, it's bad. But I mean, it's sort of a lot like a lot of the Me Too stuff, which is, if anyone can get accused of anyone and thrown out of college without a hearing or whatever, now we're getting into some scary Orwellian slippery slope business.
The idea also that you can just, now we don't like what we did then, so now we're going to criminalize what you did then under our standards now. I mean, that's also a frightening process.
So what are the predictions with him?
I think the fact that His Honor asked for a survey of all the cases is not a good sign for the prosecution.
Because while the Mann Act may have been implemented or prosecuted over the last several decades, let's say, those things would involve like Mexico and child trafficking and whatever. It wouldn't involve hookers coming in from Vegas.
I mean,
right?
the original idea of the Mann Act was they didn't want young rural women being transported across state lines, white women.
Right.
That was it was called the White Slavery Act before. Mann Act is not after a man, it's after a politician whose last name was Mann, M-A-N-N.
Oh, didn't know that.
So the Mann Act it's actually almost rarely used, which is one of the reasons you can't find that many cases where it is. But when it is used, rarely does anybody get substantial time, and it's usually as kind of a leverage or a catch-all. If you can't find somebody, the Al Capone theory, on the actual acts and you think he's a bad guy, you go for tax. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the I think one of the Supreme Court justices called it the lazy prosecutor's fallback position. This, I think, the Mann Act has been used inappropriately, and I just think it's time for the prosecutors in this case to just say, okay, we tried, we lost, go on our way.
And he falls under the heading of the Menendez, which is, I don't know what danger he poses to the public at will.
Exactly.
Which is zero. You should just let him get back to paying taxes.
Well, he's going to come out. He's a real earner. I mean, this is a guy who not only earns, but is creative and iconic and gets and understands stuff.
Yeah. So he looks like he's going to do
I think he's going to do just fine. I think that the chapter 3 for Sean is going to be good.
And that'll be beginning October
2nd.
And does he have any recourse? Is he going to try? I mean,
stay tuned.
Oh, yeah, because
stay tuned.
Because now I know there's a lot of things in place where you can't sue. I can't sue Gavin Newsom for letting my neighborhood burn down, even though we should be able to, but you can't do it.
Because of governmental immunities.
Right. So there's that. But on the other hand, these guys come in and completely destroy your world for X amount of years, not to mention the jeopardy of being in prison for the rest of your life. And then at the end, they go, oh, that was our mistake, or I guess we didn't have enough.
Sorry about that. No harm, no foul.
Have fun
right?
gathering up the pieces of your life.
Exactly. What you can do.
And so it seems like there should be some recourse for that.
Well, there's like I say, stay tuned. There's been, just yesterday, I believe, as we sit here, the Cher Tremonte firm, Michael, who's a great lawyer, civil lawyer on the East Coast. Just got a dismissal of a number of the cases. Got a great opinion. I read it this morning. A number of these cases, all these bullshit cases, are getting dismissed, and so I think he's going to go on the offensive. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Well, you'll keep us posted. And Tenny is going off to go with the Realtor brothers.
Correct.
Got into
but I'll tell her that you think that might be off brand. Although she would say, sex trafficking is the new normal. She'll probably club me like a baby seal when she listens to this.
I think there is a difference between a woman lawyer going to bat for these male pariahs, for lack of a better term, or at least in terms of society, versus a big, straight, armo dude like you.
I think there's no question about that. I think that you've only got an audience of jurors. You can say, oh, I'm playing for this or I'm playing. No, your audience is the jury. And if you're a female, and that's why I don't think the prosecution ever recovered from her opening statement. I've said that before. I sat there, I watched that opening statement. She talked about what was happening there in a way that was so authentic, was so real, and talked about, hey, these women who come in and start, to your point just now, who say, I'm going to apply some standard. In retrospect, I didn't have agency. In retrospect, how much was my body worth? Things like that. She said these women they knew what they were getting into. They were there for a reason. They were getting a payday, and now they're going to come in here. Nobody went to the police. Nobody complained until the prosecution went to them.
And Cassie got $20 million.
Well, yeah, and then if you can believe the Intercontinental, that they got $10 million from the Intercontinental Hotel, I mean, that lawyer should be embarrassed.
So but also what I was talking about is optics-wise, I don't think Johnny Cochran would have been good for this.
No, in fact,
your daughter would be much better for this in terms of making this case to the jury.
Yeah, you know what Johnny Cochran's last criminal case was? Last criminal trial. Diddy. It was the last case he tried. The J-Lo shooting incident.
Really?
Yeah, with Ben Brofman. That was his last trial.
Yeah, I feel like the times and the winds have changed, and you want somebody like Tenny. Some of it's a physicality. Some of it's just like literally what they look like, but it's a gender thing in there as well, and an ethnicity thing as well. And I just think she's good for that. The last one I want to ask you about, because this one is interesting, and I don't know if you have any thoughts about it, but there's that Indian truck driver who got his truck driving license from California, and then he went to Florida, and then he made like a U-turn in a semi-truck, and then the minivan plowed into it, right? And I was kind of thinking about you and your take on this. Now, Pam Bondi and all the MAGA folks are like, lock him up and plow into your semi-truck and kill the family. All right, so there's a few things. One is as bad as much as MAGA country wants him to put him in a hole and never let him out, I don't really look at this as that. I look at it as a guy who probably shouldn't have had a truck driver's license, but a little more, that's more in the sanctioning body than him. I mean, whoever gave him the license is really one that needs to be talked to. You are representing this driver. What is your argument? You know me well. I mean, that's a different look. I've talked about this before with you. The law, the way it's developed in the U.S. is you have to have for crime the actus reus, which is the Latin for the act itself, and that's the act itself, as you just saw. But there's also the mens rea, the mental state, and there are variations in a mental state. I want somebody who is, cold-blooded or kind of mentally ill to be in a different category than somebody who is it's a negligence or it's a gross negligence. That's why we have those gradations of a mental state. And if you don't have that, and you're going to say, if it involves death, therefore there's only one result, you're going to have inherently unfairness, and it's not going to be equitable. How would you handle the delicate subject of saying the driver had a part to play in this. If that person was alert and looking forward and just applied the anti-lock brakes soon as they saw that truck making a U-turn, they probably wouldn't have made contact with the truck.
I've had this countless times, and you have to just make the case, and you have to show, there is an apportionment. We have an apportionment. We don't say there isn't strict liability. It isn't where you have an accident, somebody dies, and you strictly are liable for murder one. That doesn't happen. You have to apportion it. You have to see who's at fault, and you do a comparative analysis. And that's just the way it is. Otherwise, you're always going to have these kind of crazy situations right here where how is that guy the same degree of culpability as somebody?
The Ray Caruth guy.
The Ray Caruth guy.
Right. But do you have to sort of front load it by saying, look, our sympathies go out to the deceased and all that stuff.
You can't just check your humanity. It's horrible. There are cases that are horrible that come in and you say, I don't want to deal with this. But if it's somebody and you feel that you have to, you do it. That's part of the role of a lawyer is just because you may get people throwing crap at you because you're doing something that's unpopular doesn't mean you don't take the case. And that's under 6068 of the Business Professions Code, that's the law.
In that case, did it look to you like the person applied the brake at all?
No, and I didn't understand
it would assume to me that they were looking down or texting or something in a millisecond.
I can't figure out what happened there because I was just looking at the one you just sent me. That to me is frightening as you driving, but I'll bet you it's not frightening to you.
No, because you feel in control of you. If you're in the passenger seat,
you'd be
right when there isn't a passenger seat. Yeah. But you would
I'm in the passenger seat when I'm watching your video.
Right. Yeah, and so you're controlled. But I do sort of look at it through the eyes of someone who operates a car, which is if I saw in the distance this guy coming around, I would immediately...
You'd brake or you'd go right.
Right.
Yeah,
something. I wouldn't just literally stay in the fast lane and go right into the belly of the thing. And again, I wouldn't, blame the deceased, but there was something that we're missing in this equation.
And I don't know if it was the optical, illusion in the sense that it's tough to see the vantage point of the car. You're only looking at one vantage point. I would have to see the other.
Yeah. Well, either way, I was just sort of thinking about how if you were defending, let's just say the guy was Armo instead of Indian, and you felt compelled.
Well, I've got a Indian son-in-law, so.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he can get Tenny to get him out of hot water.
Exactly.
He's a troublemaker too, so he's going to get into trouble. So what are you working on?
I've got Menendez all the time. I've got another case that has not percolated yet that I'm hoping you will not hear about. And I've got
somebody high profile?
Yes. I've got a high profile where somebody's in the crosshairs.
Uh-huh. And if you guys can figure it out,
I think we're going to figure it out, so you'll never
no one will hear about it.
Exactly.
Until I get you drunk at the Christmas party.
Exactly right. A little Don Julio, and then there's the truth serum.
All right, Mark, where should I tell people to go if they want to find out more about you? Want to listen to the podcast?
Yeah, Reasonable Doubt, or Two Angry Men with on TMZ and